Good morning, and welcome to the 2022 Virginia Festival of the Book, presenting Virtual Storytime Marathon. I'm Sarah Lawson, Associate Director of the Virginia Center for the Book, a program of Virginia Humanities. Thanks for joining us. A couple notes before we begin. Please share your questions for the authors using the Q&A tab on Zoom. Also, this event has optional closed captioning, which you can turn on and customize at any time with the tab at the bottom of your window. If you haven't already read today's books, we hope you will. For details about how to buy them from a local bookseller, visit vabook.org, where you can also explore the schedule of upcoming programs and watch past events. While you're there, please consider making a donation to support the festival's ongoing work at vabook.org/give. Thanks to our bookseller for this event, Book No Further in Roanoke, Virginia. Now, I'm pleased to introduce our speakers today. Cherie Fu, author of Little Messy Marcy Su, is the mother of two audacious little girls. Inspired by childhood's wondrous humor and optimism, she began imagining stories that reflected her own family's cultural experience. She lives in Austin with her messy husband and her messier daughters. Shannon Hitchcock, author of She Sang for the Mountains, The Story of Jean Ritchie, was born in North Carolina and grew up in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. She is the author of 4 middle grade novels and 2 picture book biographies. Juana Medina, author and illustrator of multiple children's books, including the chapter book series Juana and Lucas, was born and grew up in Colombia. At school, she got into trouble for drawing cartoon versions of her teachers. Eventually, however, all that drawing and trouble paid off. Sana Rafi, author of Little Seeds of Promise, earned her MFA from Columbia University. She is a Pakistani American who is passionate about showcasing Muslim and immigrant characters in her books. Brittany J. Thurman, author of Fly, has always listened to stories told by her grandmother. Those same stories hold space in her writing today. Brittany is the co-author of Fearless by Mandy Gonzalez and is a graduate of Carnegie Mellon University. And Sarah FitzHenry, an educator working to provide equitable and engaging learning experiences for all students. Thank you all so much for being here today. Sarah, please take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Some of you might know me, and I might be new to some of you, so I'm going to introduce myself as Miss Fitz. That's what my students and many of my friends call me. I love books, I love reading, and I love sharing books and reading with young readers out there. So I could not be more excited to be here today to share these amazing books and authors with you. And although you're sitting in front of your computer, we're actually going to be traveling far and wide during the next hour and a half. During our Storytime Marathon, we are going to go from the Cumberland Mountains in Kentucky all the way to Bogota, Colombia. We are going to be visiting kids who are learning and growing and facing big changes and scary and wonderful things, having tons of fun in their everyday lives, just like you do. I can't wait for you to meet all of these amazing authors. And we're going to be doing some moving too. So while we talk, let's stretch. Stand up. Make sure you have lots of room around you because you are going to need that. And let's do some stretching. While we stretch, I'm going to tell you, you don't just get to sit and listen today. I have a job for you. Now, if we were all in the same room, if you were in my class or we were in the library and we were meeting all of these amazing people in person, you would raise your hand when you had a question, because who doesn't have a question for amazing real life authors that wrote amazing real life books? I know you're going to have some. So because we're not in the same room, instead of raising your hand, you're going to use the chat or the Q&A feature, whatever is easiest for you, because we built in time for you to ask your questions. After all, you're the ones that make this story time great. So we want to hear your questions. So let's practice using the chat right now. You might be able to use it yourself. You might need some help from an adult or a helper in your room, but please let us know your name. I'll start. Let's see. I'm going to send a message to everyone that says, my name is Miss Fitz. Can you see it? Did it show up? Okay, I want to hear some names of some people that are here today to hear these stories. Let's see if we can get the chat to work. Authors, you can send your names too. Oh, here they come. Thomas and Maggie are here. Juana is here. Mimi and Nico. Brittany is here. Oh, Cherie's here. Margot, Shannon, Sana. Oh, I've got a good feeling about this group. So don't be shy about the chat. That's why it's here. We want to hear from you. Everything is more fun when our audience is involved. Okay, before we jump in and visit our first, oh, hi, Acer and Max. Before we jump in and hear from our first author, there's a song I love to sing before I share a story, and it helps me remember how to be a good listener. Being a good listener can be challenging, and just like anything else, it takes practice. If you want to throw a football really well, if you want to run really fast, you have to practice. And listening is the same way. You've got to strengthen those muscles. So it's the listening song, and I'll go through it once and then we can try it together. You can sing with me. It starts with our eyes watching. Eyes are watching, and then our ears are listening. Of course, that's important. Ears are listening, lips are closed, hands are still. I love this one because it's about your feet. Your feet are very quiet, and then you should really try it. And we finish with listening well, listening well. So we finish stretching. If you want to sit during our stories, you can take a seat, get cozy, and let's sing our listening song. You'll need your fingers. Eyes are watching, ears are listening, lips are closed, hands are still, feet are very quiet. You should really try it. Listening well, listening well. We'll take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Oh, just one more. I think we're ready to meet our first author, Cherie Fu. Welcome, and we can't wait to hear about little Messy Marcy Su.
Hi, hello. Thank you for the introduction, Miss Fitz. What a warm, warm welcome. So I'm so happy to be part of this Storytime marathon and to share my picture book with you today. So as Miss Fitz, as Sarah had mentioned, I am from Austin, Texas, and I live with my husband and 2 kids. So Austin is the capital of Texas, and actually right now I happen to be in DC, Washington, DC, which is the capital of the United States. And as probably a lot of you know, DC is right next to Virginia. And I was actually just in Virginia, and I was visiting my mother-in-law and father-in-law in Crozet, which is about 20 minutes from Charlottesville. And we went to Monticello, which is Thomas Jefferson's home. So it was a very exciting trip to Virginia. So I'll just tell you really quickly about my 2 daughters. So I have 2 girls, and my younger daughter just turned 5 this past week. And she's learning to read, maybe like some of you. And she loves roller coasters, moving a lot. She likes playing with her Smushmallow and pretty much jumping off of anything that you can jump off of. And she's only 5, but she's already broken her arm 2 times. So we tried to keep her safe because she is very active. My older daughter is 7, and she lost her 2 front teeth. So she is having trouble eating, but she is doing a really good job. So maybe like some of you, you might be starting to lose some of your teeth. So I wrote this book, Little Messy Marcy Su, that I'm going to read to you today. And I think about the main character, Marcy Su, as being about my daughter's age. But I didn't write the story about them. I wrote it a few years ago when they were a lot younger. But I see a lot of their spirit in Marcy Su and Marcy Su's spirit in them. So I will start the book. Here is Little Messy Marcy Su, and it was illustrated by Julie Kwan, who is a very, very talented illustrator, who has also illustrated Peter Lee's Notes from the Field and The Fearless Flights of Hazel Ying Lee. All right, so Little Messy Marcy Su. Marcy Su couldn't help but make messes, track mud on the floors, and get stains on her dresses. She always had bruises and scrapes on her knees from running fast races and climbing tall trees. Early one Sunday, on a bug hunting scout, Marcy jumped up when she heard her mom shout, "Messy Marcy, your room is a sty. Why can't you clean? Oh, why, Marcy, why?" Waipoa and Waigong are coming today. Just look at this mess. What will they say? They'll think you were raised by wolves in the wild, or worse, that you're spoiled and ill-behaved child. You ask why I call you my shell, Luan Luan. It could be the dirt that's caked onto your hands. Get yourself dressed. No mud stains allowed. Please pick up your things and make Mama proud. Well, Marcy Sue never did shrink from a task. She thought, I'll do more than my mama had asked. I'll start out by running the washing machine. Mama will say, your clothes, 好干净. So Marcy ripped out all the family's attire and polka dot sheets from the washer and dryer. The hallway looked like the machines had exploded, but Marcy was her own clothes, now loaded. Next, Marcy merrily skipped down the hall to grab Mama's vacuum plugged into the wall. She fluttered about, getting fuzz off the floor, unaware of the chaos raging outside her door. The twice tangled cord knocked over the lamp. Down went the huaping with Mama's new plant. The framed family portrait plunged straight to the ground with a deafening bang and a shattering sound. Clueless to all the mayhem she'd wrought, I need a quick bath, was Marcy's next thought. She filled up the tub for a warm, soapy scrub. She splished and she splashed, singing rub-a-dub-dub. Speeding to dress herself, Marcy was beaming, her ribbons pulled tight, but the faucet still streaming. The bubbles were flowing, spilling onto the floor, soaking the mat as they crept toward the door. Just then, the Tsao-ing prompted Mama to check. And she gasped when she saw that her home was a wreck. Oh, who was to blame? Oh, Mama knew who. Marcy Sue, what on earth did you do? I stacked all my books. I can reach the top shelf. Did you notice I washed all my laundry myself? I picked up my toys so no one will fall. I vacuumed the rug. There are no crumbs at all. Don't I look nice? I got myself dressed. Don't say it. I know you are truly impressed. Mama Sue stared, speechless with shock, unsure what to do as she glanced at the clock. Just at that moment, the front doorbell chimed as Waipoa and Waigong arrived right on time. Waipoa exclaimed, Dala, hello! The house is a mess. Ah, yeah. Oh, no. Marcy, Baobei, your room is pristine. You must have worked the whole morning to clean. But the rest of the house, it looks like a zoo. Why can't the others be more like you? The end.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
That book makes me giggle every time because I just understand how it feels to be every character in that book. And I have a question for our listeners. I noticed that your book has the words written a certain way so that the last words of each line rhyme. And I wonder if any of our readers out there know what that's called when the last words of each line rhyme. And while we're waiting for them to guess, why did you decide to write Marcy Su's story that way?
I actually really enjoy writing in rhyme. So it fit the story also. Like there's so much chaos, but rhyming feels like a little bit of a paradox, which I know it sounds like, and that's kind of what she's doing, right? She's kind of making a mess at the same time that she's creating order. So I think that writing in rhyme is a real like a puzzle, like putting pieces together, and it's kind of like a fun challenge. So it kind of felt like it was something that I enjoyed doing, not just in terms of writing the story, but about thinking about words and then thinking about what could fit together, and you know, kind of being creative that way too with the words.
Oh, neat. And Jen and our audience guessed, is it called a poem? Is that what you would call the way that your story is written?
Yeah, I think of it as a rhyming story or a poem. And I love that was one of my favorite things when I was growing up. I read so much Shel Silverstein that I feel like that was in my head as rhyming stories. And so it's definitely something I enjoyed as a kid.
Oh, neat. There were so many things that I loved about Marcy Su's story, but one of my very favorite things was getting to get to know and spend some time with a family that looks different than mine. I thought that was so neat. Marcy Su is a big sister, has a younger sibling. I'm the youngest in my family, so that's new to me. Her family speaks 2 languages at home, which is so cool, and that's not something I got to grow up doing. Do you think that it's important for readers to meet characters and families that look different than what they see every day?
Oh, so much so. I mean, I think that's part of the huge change that's happening in book publishing right now with picture books. And I love it so much. I really felt like when I was growing up, I didn't read, I mean, I tried to think of any books that I read with Chinese characters, and I can't think of a single one. So I think it's really important that my kids grow up seeing these characters. And there's so many more now. And I love that they're surrounded by that, not just in terms of seeing themselves represented, by seeing the colors and the diversity. And I think it's so important just to normalize it, and to tell these stories that don't necessarily call it out in a way that makes it feel marginalized or very different or like they're other, but just to show that they're kids and that there's so many universal truths about being a kid that kind of go above and transcend you know, like any particular culture or race. It's just kind of fun to show that it all feels the same.
Yeah, and Marcy Su is different. She's different than me because she gets to speak 2 languages at home, but she's also just like me because I make big messes when I don't mean to. And sometimes I think I'm just vacuuming and I'm actually making things worse. So it felt a little bit like a mirror and a window, which those are 2 of my favorite ways to use books, as mirrors and windows. I have one more question, but remember, our audience, if you have questions, go ahead and send them to the chat. We will take the time to answer them. But another one of my favorite parts of the book was at the very end, we get a peek at Marcy Su's notes from her Chinese class, which was so neat. And we see her Mandarin Chinese words to practice list. I could have looked at that all day. It was so fascinating. It looks a little bit like an index for a nonfiction book, and you can look back through and find those books in the story, which is so cool. I'm wondering if you could help us to practice a word or 2 out loud.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest things about Chinese, or one of the most interesting things about Chinese that's different from English, is that the words mean different things with different intonations. So
cool.
I always use, like, you know, there are so many examples, but I use the word G. And so there are different tones that you could use. G, 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 G. And so G, just if you just say it like that, G, like a high tone, or what's called the first tone, that would mean chicken. If you said G, it would mean like really rushed. And then G would mean like you're really like crowded and crushed, and you don't have much space. And G means like remember. So those are so different. And it's funny that the same word, the intonation makes the meaning. And so I thought it was important to include the intonation because it can affect the meaning of the word. So one of the words that's very close to my heart is 外婆, which means maternal grandmother. And one of the things, again, that's interesting about Chinese is that, and this happens in other cultures and other languages too, but when you say 外婆, it means maternal grandmother, not just grandmother. And so it's related to your mother's mother. And 外公 is just your mother's father. You would not say 外婆, 外公 for your father's parents. So it's interesting that there's that kind of lineage associated with it too. So one of my favorite words in Chinese, or one of my, it's technically two words in Chinese, but one word in English is 宝贝, which means darling, or like my precious. And 宝贝, that's actually what my mom called me. I mean, she called me also 小臭蛋, which is like a very common Chinese thing, and it means little stinky egg, but it's really a term in German. And so it's a very common thing in Chinese to call your kids this little smelly egg, which kind of sounds funny when you translate it, but it's very common. But 宝贝 means like my precious, and it's like if you called somebody like my dearest, like my sweetheart. And so in my head, my mom always called me 宝贝, and I think of my kids as like my 宝贝. So 宝贝, it's a little bit hard because 宝is like a little bit like ow. It's like a weird, it doesn't happen that much in English, but it's 宝, almost like like I always say it rhymes with cow because that's like the closest.
Oh, good trick. Okay.
Yeah, like the closest thing. So it's 宝. And then bay is like, like a bay, like a kind of a body of water. So you can think of it that way as 宝贝. So that's one of my favorite words in Chinese, and it's very near and dear to my heart.
宝贝. What a cool word. And we have a message from Emmanuel. Emmanuel liked the book and wanted you to know.
Thanks,
Emmanuel.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
And we see that you have to go, and that's okay. I think you'll be able to watch the recording later. Thank you so much for stopping in. And oh my goodness, thank you for teaching us all about Marcy Su. We're so glad that you were here.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Sarah. Miss Fitz, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Okay, before we head over to our next author, we are going to do some moving. So let's see. This is my favorite tool. It is the wheel, and it is going to decide what we're doing next. Let's see. What are we going to do? Ooh, I hope that you're ready to dance, because we are going to be doing some freeze dancing. We have another author to meet. It's time for us to meet Shannon Hitchcock, and she'll be talking to us about her story. She sang for the mountains, story of singer, songwriter, activist Jean Ritchie. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you. You are so energetic. It makes me want to go back to school. This is the cover of She Sang for the Mountains. This book is a picture book biography. So it's about an actual person who lived. It's the story of Jean Ritchie. This book is illustrated by Sophie Page. Sophie is a mixed media illustrator. She crafts her images in 2 and 3 dimensions out of paper, clay, fabric, and wire. So as we go through the book, I want you to notice how unusual Sophie's illustrations are. I think they are really cool. Let's get started. In the Cumberland Mountains of Kentucky, Jean Ritchie heard music everywhere. In the twinkling stream, in the hoot owl's call, when the rain played a lullaby on the farmhouse roof. So here we have the owl, and we have the raindrops on the roof and some flowers. The Ritchie family loved to sing. On sunny spring mornings, Jean's older brothers and sisters sang in the cornfield. Jean toted the water. She always sang along. On soft summer evenings, Jean nestled on the porch swing beside her mother. Dad strummed his dulcimer, and the whole family sang the moon up as the porch swing creaked in time. So now you see why Jean became a songwriter and a singer, because she grew up surrounded by music. On crisp autumn evenings, they sang ghost songs around the crackling fire. Jean shivered with fright. Ooh. On snowy winter nights, Jean snuggled in her feather bed as the wind whistled through the chimney. Music was everywhere if you knew how to listen. So here you see them by the fire, and then here Jean is in her bedroom, all snug for the winter. Jean grew like a sapling, and life in the Cumberland Mountains began to change. Rumbling cars replaced rambling walks. The roar of radios replaced the strum of strings. A heavy feeling hung over the hills. Jean wished she could turn back time. Her brothers and sisters left home one by one. Finally, it was Jean's turn to go. So this is a transition. We've been talking about Jean as a little girl, and here she is older, and she's going to go away from home for the first time. And I don't know if you know what a sapling is, but it's a young tree. And so here you see the tree in the illustrations. And I tell you that Jean is going to go. She's going to leave Kentucky. Wonder where she went. We're going to turn the page and find out. She took a dulcimer and a heart full of music, moved from the quiet mountains to the noise of New York City, and became a music teacher. So here you see a dulcimer. That's the instrument that Jean played. And you see the Statue of Liberty over here and the bridge. That's our clues. That's our visual clues that Jean went to New York City. So that's a big change, right? To leave the Cumberland Mountains and go to New York City. Jean taught the songs of the hills to the children of the city, songs that had echoed through the mountains for generations. Her clear, lilting voice caught the ear of a song collector. He recorded her ballads for the Library of Congress and introduced her to folk singers who harmonized and protested. So here, this is something really cool that Sophie did. She has all these little pictures of singers, of people that Jean had the opportunity to perform with. So we have Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger and Carl Sandburg and Doc Watson. And their music influenced Jean. So she became somebody who not only sang, but that wrote songs. And that was really because of the people that she met in New York City. Though Jean was far from home, she had something to protest too. Companies who mined the coal and moved on, leaving behind old men with black lung disease, young men in need of work, and rusty railroad cars. So here we see some protesting against the way coal mining was polluting the water and altering the landscape in Appalachia. Jean raised her voice and sang for the mountains. I was born and raised in the mouth of the Hazard Hollow. Coal cars rambled past my door. Now they're standing in a rusty row, all empty, and the L&N don't stop here anymore. The L&N was the local railroad. And anytime when you're looking at this book and you see words that are in a box like this, these are actual song lyrics that Jean wrote. And my publisher got permission to use some of Jean's actual lyrics. So that is the end of my time, although it's not the end of my book. So if you want to know what happened to Jean, you can do two things. One, you can check this book out of your library, or two, you can check with an independent bookseller and they can get the book for you. So I hope you'll do one of those things and find out what happened to Jean next. And so now we have some time for questions.
Oh, you left us on a cliffhanger. I love a cliffhanger. Oh, I have to wonder, it seems like writing a book about another person's life is a big project and a big responsibility. So how did you decide to write a book about singer, songwriter, and activist Jean Ritchie?
I grew up in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, and I went to college at Appalachian State University. And I currently live in Asheville, so I am surrounded by the mountains. And because of that, I'm really interested in Appalachian culture. And the first book I really wanted to write was called Saving Granddaddy's Stories, Ray Hicks, the Voice of Appalachia. And the reason I wanted to write about him was because he grew up and lived near where I went to college. And so I knew about him. And after I wrote a book about Ray, then I was in the process of researching Ray. I found out about Jean and her music, and you can listen to her songs on YouTube. So that's another cool thing, is you can go out to YouTube and see her perform them. But as I watched her perform, I thought, oh, I want to write about her too. And one thing that made it really easy is Jean had written an autobiography.
Oh.
And that's a great source, because I got to learn about her in her own words and how she felt about things. And then I got to watch her perform on YouTube. And so all of those things kind of led me to write about her. The hard thing about writing about somebody is there is so much information. And if you're telling this story for kids, you have to do it very succinctly, and you can't tell everything you know. You have to find a theme and a focus.
Can you imagine if you tried to put every amazing detail about her life? I bet it would be 200 pages long.
More than that. Yeah. It would, yes. So that's the hardest part, is trying to figure out what to put in and what to leave out.
Yeah. I do love that you left some descriptions of nature in. I think your descriptions of nature are so amazing. On the opening pages, it says, in the Cumberland Mountains of Kentucky, Jean Ritchie heard music everywhere, in the twinkling stream, in the hoot owl's call, when the rain played a lullaby on the farmhouse roof. So beautiful. I know that many of my students in the past, and I bet that some of our listeners and our watchers love to write about nature as well. Do you have any advice for writers and illustrators that want to bring their love of nature into their work like you do?
Yes, I think use all of your senses. So you want to know, what did it sound like? What did it smell like? Maybe did it remind you of a taste? Or what did it feel like? But it's really sensory writing.
That's great. I would never think about writing about the way something felt or tasted. That's great advice. Do you spend a lot of time sitting in nature while you're creating?
I do, and I spend a lot of time actually staring out at nature, because my writing desk looks out over the mountains. And so, a lot of times I'll see birds, or I'll see the weather change, or I'll see like a description I just used in a book that's getting that I just sold was wispy cloud-kissed mountains. And the reason I wrote that was because I was sitting looking out at the mountain, and it was cloudy, and I thought it looked like the clouds were kissing the mountains.
Wispy cloud-kissed mountain. And I can see it in my head. Yeah. I can see your descriptions. Wow. Before I ask my last question, I want to remind our audience, if you have questions, please send them to the chat or the Q&A. We got a message from Kathy saying they love Jean Ritchie and a thank you for writing about her. So I saw your smile get nice and big when you saw that. That must feel good. When I read She Sang for the Mountains, it made me think that Jean Ritchie sounds like she noticed some change in the world around her, and it made her feel sad and worried and angry. And so she took those feelings and she decided to use them to tell a story to other people with the hopes of changing the world for the better. I wonder if that's what you try to do with your books too.
Yes, it absolutely is what I try to do with my books. And so a book that I just sold is about river contamination.
Oh.
And it also takes place in Appalachia, and it's another woman, and she was an author. Her name was Wilma Dykeman, and Wilma wrote books, and a lot of her writing was about taking care of the rivers in Appalachia.
Is that something that our listeners and people who want to write can they do that? Can they take their feelings and their kind of hopes and maybe a little bit of their fears and turn them into work?
They absolutely can.
Maybe keeping a journal. What would you suggest? How could they get started?
I think that's a beautiful way to get started, is keep a journal. Write down things that bother you or things that you would like to see changed. And then, our words, our thoughts become our words, and our words, if we share them with other people, can influence other people and can help to change the world, maybe in a small way. But, lots of small changes add up to big changes.
Oh, wow. Whew, that's very powerful. Thank you so much, Shannon Hitchcock, for being here and for sharing She Sang for the Mountains with us. I bet we have some readers that are going to be looking forward to reading the end of that story.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we have another brain break coming up. So I hope that you're ready to move out there. Let's see what we're going to do next. Stand up, get moving. Oh, right on the line. Oh, it's time to go to space. We are going to do some rocket ship yoga. So you stand up, you start stretching. We have another author to meet. Please welcome Sana Rafi, who's going to be telling us about her story, Little Seeds of Promise. Welcome, Sana.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Oops, I don't think we can see this. Let me.
Oh,
how about this?
That looks great. What a beautiful cover.
Thank you. This is my picture book, Little Seeds of Promise. I wrote the words, and the beautiful, beautiful pictures inside are done by somebody called Renia Metalinu, who is a Greek illustrator. Before I dive in and read my book for you guys, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So currently, I live in California, and I have been here for maybe, I want to say, 12 years. Before this, I was in New York. Before New York, I was in Pennsylvania. Before Pennsylvania, I was in Switzerland. And before Switzerland, I was in Pakistan. So all of my travels and all of the different places where I've lived is what inspired me to write this book. This book is about a little girl called Maya who moves to a new place. And it's kind of based on my own experience, because when I was very little, I moved from my homeland, which is Pakistan. I was born there. I was raised there. I lived with my grandparents in the same big old house. They lived downstairs. I lived upstairs with my parents and my siblings. And I had a really full life. I had cousins come in every weekend, every Friday. My grandmother would hold this big lunch, because in countries like Pakistan, which is a Muslim country, Fridays are like what is a Sunday over here. So if on Sundays you might go to church over here or in other places in the world, in Muslim countries, Fridays is that day. So the offices shut down and there's no school, and you just get to have a nice day. So Fridays used to be these amazing days where my grandmother would have this big lunch and all of her kids would come, which meant that all of my cousins would come. And that's the kind of life that I was living in Pakistan as a child. all throughout kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way up till 7th grade. And then in 7th grade, one day, my dad came home and said, hey, I got a job in Switzerland. I had never been on an airplane. I had never left Pakistan. I did not know what Switzerland was, where it was. But, you know, within a few weeks, my life completely changed. I left the home that I knew and loved in Pakistan, and we traveled all the way to Switzerland and started a brand new life. And it was a very different place from Pakistan. It couldn't have been more different. Everything was different. The culture was different. The language was different. The way people dressed was different. The way people looked was different. And the way Switzerland looked was very different from Pakistan, right? It was beautiful and scenic and very, very clean. And I could see the Alps and the snow. The weather was so different. It was so cold. And Pakistan was really beautiful too, but in a different way. So lots and lots of changes for me when I was a little kid. And then again, more changes when I went to college in the US, in Pennsylvania. And I went to a small, tiny town called Lancaster, which is an Amish county. And then after I graduated, I went to New York, which is a really big city. I never lived in a really, really big metropolitan city. So lots and lots of changes until finally I settled here in California. And so this book is inspired by my journey of leaving my homeland when I was very little. And I became what I call, or what we all call, an immigrant. And an immigrant is somebody who moves to a different place and lives there permanently. So they leave the place that they have grown up in, or maybe they were born in, and they move to a different place and now live there permanently. So I'm going to go ahead and read this book, and then if you guys have any questions afterwards, I'd be happy to answer. So Little Seeds of Promise, written by me and illustrated by Renia Metalinu. Just want to make sure there's no glare so you guys can see properly.
It looks great. We can see the
Awesome.
beautiful pictures.
Perfect. Here, Maya thought the world was unfriendly and cold. She felt so different. Maybe it was the way she spoke, or the lunch she ate, or the clothes she wore. Lonely and lost, she missed the home she had left behind. There, Maya slept to the night watchman's song and woke to the sweet adhan. There, people said Assalamu alaikum and danced in the warm monsoon. There lived Nani, sweet and tender with 100 wrinkles on her face. She always smelled like flowers. Before Maya said goodbye, Nani gave her a gift, little seeds of promise. She whispered, "Bloom where you are planted, Maya." But Maya didn't know how to do that. Here, life was not the same. The ground was so hard, so stubborn. Her seeds would never blossom. Not here. Maya carried the seeds with her everywhere she went, to the post office, to the library, and even to school. But she never shared them with anyone. Maya guarded them like a secret. Whenever Maya felt sad, she closed her eyes and imagined Nani right here. Little Maya, dig deep And plant them, said Nani. One day you'll be surrounded by flowers. If only, Maya thought. There, Nani and Maya danced, laughed, and prayed among flowers. If her seeds did grow into flowers here, she'd count them like stars in the sky. Maybe she could plant a seed, only one. Maya found a patch of earth. She dug deep, placed her seed, and covered it with dirt. Maya longed for rain, but she knew better than to wait for it. Maya hoped for warmth. She made way for the rays from the sun. Days passed and nothing happened. Maya wished she could crack open the seed and force it to grow. But Nani reminded her that seeds have a long journey from the ground up. They need lots of rainfall, days of sunshine, and care. So Maya greeted her seed with love and kindness. She sang the night song to it. She imagined it growing strong. Before long, Maya felt something whirling inside her, ready to burst into the world. She imagined her seeds growing strong into little buds, pretty florets, and finally, sweet-smelling flowers. She heard Nani saying, "Little Maya, let your seeds be free." She loved keeping her seeds of promise safe, but they needed to stretch out, get bigger, and taller. Could she be brave enough to let them go? Could she share them with the world? Maya smiled. She was ready to let her seeds grow. One day, she looked back and her seeds of promise stood so tall, so bright, like hope, shooting out of the earth towards the sky. Their blooms smelled ever so familiar, like Nani over there, like the warm breeze here, like home. And that is the story of Maya and her journey. Thank you.
Listeners, if you have questions about Maya's story or questions for Sana about her experience as an author, please send them to the chat, send them to the Q&A. I have a big question though. I'll start us off. Little Seeds of Promise starts out with big feelings right away. That's one of my favorite things about picture books and about books in general, is that sometimes you have big feelings inside of you and it's really hard to figure out what they mean or what to do with them. And you do such an incredible job in Little Seeds of Promise of showing that everybody goes through experiences like that and has big feelings. On the opening page, Maya even says here, Maya thought the world was so unfriendly and cold. She felt so different. We do not shy away from those feelings. I've felt feelings like that before. I wonder if anyone in our audience has maybe felt feelings like that before. Maybe you gave a little bit of a Me Too symbol when we read that page. What made you want to write about someone feeling the way that Maya feels?
Yeah, it's such a good question. When I wrote this book, I thought about it and I was like, I could have used a book like this when I was little. I wish that there was something like this that existed when I became an immigrant, when I moved to a brand new place and I didn't know anyone and I felt really different, right? I looked different. I ate different food. I dressed differently than everybody else. And, at that point, I didn't know that being different is okay, that being different is cool, and that all of us are different on so many different levels, and that's awesome. That's a way to connect with others and grow and learn things. But at that point, I just felt so lonely and I just felt so lost, just like Maya. I just didn't know what happened. I was like, wait, where's my grandmother? Where's my grandfather? Where's that big old house that I lived in? So I wanted to write a book for all the kids out there who may not be immigrants, but who might feel different, or who might be moving to a new school, or who might be moving to a new neighborhood or a new state, or who might just be missing their grandparents who are far away. So, it is for all of those kids who, like me, could have used a book like that.
Oh, what a great answer. And that reminds me a little bit of Cherie's answer at the beginning. She wrote Marcy Su's story because that was the book she wanted to see too. It sounds like authors notice the stories that they want to read that aren't out there yet and then make them.
Yes.
What a superpower. That is so cool.
Well, also, I mean, when I moved to California and I had my son, who is now 10 years old, and he started going to school, and I was like, wow, look at the diversity here. There were kids from all over in his schools. And as he progressed, I noticed that he also started noticing that there were people from different nationalities, different countries, different accents. They all of the differences were coming together. And I was like, man, these kids can also use a book like that, because they're all coming in from different places. Because I live in Silicon Valley, and a lot of people, a lot of engineers and a lot of data scientists are coming in from all over the world, and they have kids and who are adjusting to a new life here in the US. So it's not just for me, but I think it's relevant today because travel and journey and moving to different places has become so common.
Oh yeah. And that's actually a perfect lead into my next question. If you have any suggestions for listeners that might notice someone in their class that looks like they're feeling a little bit like Maya. Maya describes that she's feeling lost, lonely, she's alone, she's missing home. What can they do if they see someone who might be feeling that way?
That is such a good question. I think that kindness is the way to go, right? Kindness is never lost. Kindness is never wasted. So I wish what had happened to me is that I wish somebody had come up to me on the first day and said, hey, you're new, welcome. My name is XYZ. Come, I'll show you around. I'll show you where the science lab is. I'll show you where the gym is. Do you like to play basketball? Anything at all, right? I wish that I'd had somebody approach me and say, let's go play. And that somebody did approach me, but it took a while, right? And I continued feeling lonely and lost. So I always tell my son that if there's somebody new in the class, make them feel invited, make them feel welcome. Don't make them feel like I don't know where I've come and I don't want to be here. They just need one friend, right? So they just need one person to smile at them and say, hey, do you like playing tag? Let's go play tag, So just be kind and just say hi.
Sounds like that takes a little bit of bravery too, because it's so scary to be the new person. And it also can be a little bit scary to put yourself out there and introduce to someone new. There's got to be some bravery on both sides.
Oh, for sure.
And before I ask my last question, just a reminder to our audience, if you have any questions, please send them along to us. Speaking of brave, Maya is so brave. Just all throughout the book, she's brave to admit when she's scared. She's brave to share these memories that mean so much to her. She's brave to not wait for rain, but to go out and find the rain and the warmth herself. You use one of my very favorite quotes in Maya's story when Nani tells Maya to bloom where you are planted. What does that quote mean to you?
That quote really resonated with me when I first, I first saw it on a poster in a store. And I was like, man, it just stopped me in my tracks. And I just loved it so much, because what it means to me is to adjust where you are, but not just adjust because you have to, but to really thrive, to really bloom in your new place, right? Wherever you are, whatever life throws at you, whatever situation you're in, try to make the best of it. Try to be positive about it, right? And kind of mold yourself in a way that serves you and makes you happy, instead of complaining and instead of saying, this is the worst, I don't want to be here. Just embrace it and be positive about it.
It's so easy to fall into that trap. This is hard and I just want to let it be hard and talk about how it's hard.
Exactly. I know. I love that quote. I always go back to it because I feel like if I'm having a hard day, I just remind myself to just bloom where I'm planted, because I've been planted here. We've all been planted at different places. And you know what? Just embrace what comes your way. Just go with the flow and be positive about it.
Oh, I love it. And I see Cherie loves it too. She just sent a message that says, that's going to be my new motto. I love it. So thank you so much for reading, for sharing with us, and for giving us our new motto. It was so wonderful to have you, Sana Rafi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, you know what it's time for. It's time for another brain break and a body break. Hopefully you are feeling ready to move. We've got 3 options left. We might be making some purple stew. We might be doing some wiggling. We might be dancing. So let's find out what's next. I wonder if you have a guess which one it's going to land on. Ooh, we are making some purple stew. I love making purple stew. Time to sit back down and meet our next author, Brittany Thurman. Welcome, Brittany Thurman, and I'm thrilled that we're going to get to learn about your book, Fly. Hi, Brittany. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's been amazing hearing everyone's stories and their inspiration. And I'm excited to share my story with the friends that are here with us this morning. My story is Fly. Fly is a story about 5-year-old Africa who dreams to compete in double dutch, even though she has never in her life double dutch before. And before I get started, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I am from a place called Louisville, Kentucky, not too far from Virginia. And I've lived a little bit of everywhere. I lived in London, in Pittsburgh, in North Carolina. Now I'm back here in my hometown. And when I was Africa's age, there were a lot of times when I was afraid to do something new. I was afraid to take a step forward. And a lot of the reasons is because I was kind of scared that my friends would laugh at me. They would make fun that I didn't know what I was doing. And one of those things was double dutch. And I wanted to ask my friends in the audience, do you know what double dutch is? Have you heard of double dutch before? And have you seen double dutch in action? I love to watch double dutch, even though I'm not that great at it. I have to admit, I am not the best at double dutch. I do like to jump rope though. Do my friends like to jump rope? So I like to jump rope, not too great at double dutch. But I think that when it comes to the things that we want to do, when we take one step forward, and when we try and try again, we can get better. And that's what Africa does. She tries, even though she doesn't necessarily know what she is doing. And Fly is illustrated by a brilliant illustrator. Her name is Anna Cunha. And after you read Fly, please check out the other books that Anna has illustrated. Her work is beautiful. Fly, I am the author. I wrote the story. Anna Cunha illustrated the pictures. Africa has a birthmark in the shape of her name. In the classroom, down the hall, out the front door, her birthmark leads the way. If you look closely, you can see her birthmark. Do you see it on her arm? After school on Monday, she sees a poster that says, Double Dutch competition this Sunday at noon. Meet outside the library. What's the competition? Africa asked her brother. It's when you show the world what you're made of, he answers. That evening, Africa declares to her family, I'm going to show the world what I'm made of. Say what? Asked her mother. Come again, says her father. Huh? Asked her brother. On Sunday, I'm going to jump, fly, double dutch to the sky. Africa feels certain she can double dutch until her shoes are in fast forward, until her feet forget the ground, until she flies like the birds in the sky. Africa feels certain she can double dutch like her grandma used to. Mama's told her that back in the day, not a soul could beat Nana's fast-moving feet. But Africa, says her brother, you've never double dutched before. You can't do something you've never done. Her brother has a point. Africa has never double dutched. That night, she tries to learn all on her own. Move your feet. How do you move your feet? Focus, focus, focus. I wonder, what book do you think Africa is reading? Step to the rhythm, step to the rhythm. No matter how much she tries to learn all on her own, Africa thinks there must be a better way. As they get off the bus on Tuesday, Africa whispers to her bestie Bianca, Bianca, teach me how to double dutch. Never could, Bianca laughs, but I can show you how to dance. Bianca jitters, jives, bounces to the side. It's no double dutch, but Africa joins her. At lunch on Thursday, Africa sees Kay and Laura. Hey, how do y'all double dutch? Can't do that, but we can do Miss Mary Mac, 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 all dressed in black, black, black. Want to join us? Kay and Laura clap and sing. It's no double dutch, but Africa joins them. At recess on Friday, Africa yells to Whitney, Whitney, show me how to double dutch. Double what? Whitney says. Never learned, but I can double cartwheel, double backflip, double somersault. Want to see? Whitney cartwheels, backflips, and somersaults. It's no double dutch, but Africa tries her best to join her. During piano lesson on Saturday, Africa can't help but look out the window. Who does she see when she looks out the window? Tomorrow, I'm going to jump, fly, double dutch to the sky. The next day, Africa walks up to the poster that says, double dutch competition today at noon. Africa, her brother reminds her, "You can't do something you've never done before." Africa has never double dutched, but now Africa knows how to dance, how to step, how to cartwheel, how to sing, how to move her hands this way and that. Everything you need to know to double dutch. Today, I'm going to jump, fly, double dutch to the sky. The jump ropes twirl as if the two are becoming one. Africa counts 1, 2, 3. Africa sways 1, 2, 3. Africa jumps 1, 2, 3 into the ropes, moving her shoes and fast forward, letting her feet forget the ground, flying like the birds in the sky. Africa double dutches like her friends taught her, better than her Nana used to, beating those fast moving feet. Africa has a birthmark in the shape of her name that's always shown her what she's made of. That is the end.
Oh, that book just fills my bucket, fills my heart up.
Thank you.
Our readers and listeners, send any questions that you have for Brittany Thurman to the chat. And I want to start off by saying I admire so many things about Africa's character. She is brave, she is confident, she is curious, she's fearless. Like, she will try anything. And the way that she loves herself and knows there's no fear. Like, what if I join this competition and I'm not great? She's like, well, I already know I'm great. So if this competition isn't my best moment, I'll have lots of other best moments. I really want to be just like Africa. Did anyone in your life inspire pieces of Africa's character?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people inspired Africa. I think a part of Africa was inspired from me as a kid. You know, sometimes I didn't, I was afraid to do things. I wondered, what would it have been like if I wasn't afraid? If I had just done things because I knew deep down that I could do them. I am always inspired by my grandmother. And my favorite spread in Fly is the spread where Africa is looking up to her grandmother.
That's my favorite too.
I love the colors. I love the birds. I love that this is her grandmother that she's looking up to. And my grandmother inspires me. I always think about the things that she's gone through in the past and how she has always been this pillar in my life, this strong woman in my life. And I look up to her. As a kid, I looked up to her. And today I look up to her. And I think that sometimes as kids, we always look to our elders or the adults in our lives to guide us. And for me, the inspiration for Africa came from my grandmother, came from myself. Also, I used to work at a library in Pittsburgh. I see I have a friend in the audience who's from Pittsburgh.
I'm from Pittsburgh too. So
you are? Oh, yeah. I used to work at the Carnegie Library in Oakland, and I would do story times. And when I was there, there was a little girl who came in, and her name was Africa, and she inspired me because she was courageous and brave and confident. I could not tell her anything because she already knew what she wanted to do. And so I always wondered, like, how special it is that you have that name, and how amazing it is that you are so confident, you just do what you want. And I was inspired by her to create this character.
Wow. So readers, not only can you take inspiration from the world around you, but you heard it here. You can inspire stories from authors too. You might be inspiring people that you don't even know that you're inspiring just by being yourself. That's so cool. I hope Africa gets to hear this somehow and knows that she is a part of your book.
I do too.
The way you describe Africa's hope about her double dutch skills is so amazing. She can double dutch until her shoes are in fast forward, until her feet forget the ground, until she flies like the birds in the sky. And I wonder, is there anything that you can do that makes you feel that way? And we'll ask that question to Brittany first. And I also want to hear from our friends in the chat if there's anything you do that makes you feel so good that it's like you can fly to the sky.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things is writing. When I get into the groove of writing a story, I feel like I can write anything, I can do anything, I can go anywhere. But one of my favorite things to do, is actually to travel. So I love to get in a plane and go. And I love being 30,000 feet in the air and just feeling like nothing else matters. I am looking out the window, I'm seeing the clouds, the sun, the moon, whatever time of day it is, and I just feel complete. I love being in the air, traveling and just feeling free. That's the feeling that it gives me. Another thing, I used to bike a lot as a kid, and I used to love to bike down hills. And like whenever I did that, I just felt like this is the best feeling in the world, and I could just do that day after day, feeling free.
Ooh, that sounds so great. No wonder you write about flying with such such strong feelings. It's because you love to fly. And sometimes you can be flying and think that you can do something, and then someone in your life might bring you down a little bit. Africa's brother, who I think is trying to help her, I do not think that he's trying to be mean, but he says, you can't do something you've never done. Do you agree with that? What do you think it takes to learn something new?
I love to ask kids after I read that portion, is her brother right? What could her brother have said instead? I don't agree with her brother. I think that we can do anything that we put our mind to. That yes, it takes time and perseverance, and sometimes we don't get it right, but we try again. But I think that sometimes, like what you were saying, the people in our lives can sometimes doubt. Maybe they're afraid for us. They don't want us to be hurt. They don't want us to get our feelings hurt. So they say these things. But I think that deep down, if we always know that, yes, I'm capable, even though I know that it might take me several steps to get it right. I think that, we can do anything that we put our mind to. I think Africa's brother is trying to protect her. He's an older brother. He just wants to protect his younger sister. But I also hope that Africa's brother takes some of Africa's confidence and perseverance and applies that to himself so that he can do the things that he wants to do.
Ooh, love that. And Rivera, who's in our audience, says pogo sticking makes them feel like they can fly. That is so cool. Thank you,
I love
Rivera.
that.
And thank you so much, Brittany Thurman, for sharing your story, for talking to us. This was so wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
All right, we are going to do one last super fast 10-second brain break because I want to have as much time as we can for our last author. So 10 seconds of the biggest wiggles you can get out of your body. So ready? 10, 9, get them out of your toes, 8, out of your elbows, 7, out of your fingers, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We get to meet our last author, Juana Medina, who's going to tell us about Juana and Lucas' Muchos Changes. Welcome, Juana Medina.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so humbling and inspiring to learn from fellow authors, and to realize that there's so many things in common, like being an immigrant, for example, or knowing that I want to try something new.
Pogo sticking, maybe, like Rivera.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think I am as agile to try pogo sticking again, but maybe I should. Yeah. But it's just been wonderful to hear so many different thoughts and ways of telling stories, and to realize there's so much to share. So it's been very inspiring. Yeah. And just as you said in the introduction, I have today here with me Juana and Lucas, Muchos Changes. For those of you that might be new to the series, Juana and Lucas started with this book, and it is called Juana, just like me, because they're stories of things that happened to me when I was a little girl growing up in Colombia. And this was my dog, Lucas, growing up. And then there was Big Problemas, and now there's Muchos Changes. And in Muchos Changes, besides my beloved dog Lucas, there's someone else who's new. I thought I would share with you the first chapter, and then hopefully you can find Juana Lucas Muchos Changes at your local bookstore or in your libraries, or at Book No Further too. But here we go, Juana Lucas Muchos Changes. Chapter 1. My name is Juana. I live in Bogota, Colombia with my best amigo, Lucas. Not only is Lucas my most special friend, but he's also the best perro ever. So here we can see Juana, or me, you can see me there, enjoying an empanada with my dear dog and friend, Lucas. And behind us are the big Andes Mountains, or Andes, in Bogota, Colombia.
Wow.
All right, let's see. We live with Mommy and Luis. When Mommy and Luis decided to get married, not everything was easy at first, but it has all worked out just fine. I'm okay with Mommy marrying Luis. Why? Porque they love each other. Also, I get to listen to Luis's jazz collection and eat his special roasted Brussels sprouts whenever he makes them. I love repollitas, even more than cheese and ice cream. Lucas is also okay with us living all together in our new casa. So here we see Juan is about to enjoy her lovely repollitas, or Brussels sprouts, and she's sitting at the table with Mommy, and Lucas is much more interested in things that might fall from the sky. And in the kitchen, you never know, some delicious things might fall. And Luis is carrying his delicious Brussels sprouts to the table. Let me switch the page here. What I'm not that excited about is Mommy's latest sorpresa. She's pregnant. This means there will soon be a baby in the house. Mommy and Luis are very excited about this news, and they can't stop talking about it. Lucas and I, meanwhile, would much rather talk about other things like football or música, or even the ever-changing weather in Bogota, ever-changing Bogota weather. And so here we can see Juana learning about her mom's big new sorpresa. Sorry, I just dropped my earphone. And there's Lucas, very curious about what might be going on. And here we can see Juana walking, strolling in Bogota despite the rain. One thing some readers might not know is that in Bogota, the weather doesn't change with seasons like it does here in the US. And so most of the time, the weather in Bogota is actually very much like springtime, sort of cool air and some rain. The thing I'm very excited about in school is school break. For weeks, I won't have to worry about Mr. Tompkins, or about all the difficult math we're learning, or about wearing my itchy uniform. Bravo! And so here we see Juana taking off her itchy skirt and blazer off, and she's in her underpants, sort of dancing around the house, happy to not have to wear her uniform. And here she's jumping in the water, saying, woohoo! During school breaks, I rest, read, explore, and play with Lucas. Nothing is better than that. Nada. Perhaps we'll go swimming and visit my abuelos, and go see Tia Cris and make some pottery together. I might even go on sleepovers with Cami and Pipe, like we've done so many times. And she's very excited about jumping in the pool, but Lucas doesn't seem all that excited despite his little swimming cap. I'll read one more page. Chapter 2. It turns out I got excited about my school break a little too soon. Mommy has another sorpresa for me. She signed me up for skating camp. A few weeks ago, I received a pair of skates as a gift from Luis and Mommy. I was happy about them at first, but now I'm a little less feliz. I'd much rather have my feet on the ground than wobble and roll on top of those weird patines. Adding wheels makes it much harder for me to stay upright. So here's the very exciting box, and the skates came in. And here we see the result of Juana trying to skate around. She quickly fell on the ground. Good thing for friends that jumped to the rescue, like Lucas is there trying to console her. So I'll stop here, but hopefully readers can find this book and continue reading and find out that Juana has a lot to learn. Things are not as bad as she thinks right now. Things might turn out to be.
And Juana and Lucas's other stories too. I know that in my school library, they were some of our most popular books, always being checked out. Kids were passing them around. They would beg to read them as read alouds. There's just so much to connect with. I mean, in this book, Big Changes is right. Juana's family and her life is going through some really big changes. We've met Juana and Lucas before, and now we're seeing some big things happening to her. So what made you decide to write about Juana's life changing in this way?
You know, I think it is very important to realize that when we are little, despite being small, there tend to be big changes happening around us, and they shape our life in such meaningful ways. And I wanted to make sure that readers knew that even if their life is not changing by someone else, you know, moving into their house, someone new, or by their parents having a new child, or, you know, that life changes, and that can make things sometimes uncertain or difficult to understand, and that I hope will let readers know that happens to everybody, not just to them, and that because it happens to everybody, we have to understand how to help each other a little bit better, right? Yeah. So that was the hope. And I think it is important to realize that despite big changes happening, there are constant things in life that are beautiful and that are special and that keep us afloat.
Oh, that was actually my next question, was that Juana is trying so many new things in this book. She's skating, she's living in a home with a new member of the family, learning about becoming a big sister. And you may have already answered this, but just in case there's more jewels of wisdom hiding in there, do you have any advice for readers who are going through their own big changes?
That's such an important question. There are so many things we can do. Sometimes we can talk about feelings with grown-ups or friends that are close to us that we can trust, and that they might know how to listen to us and make us feel heard and acknowledged, and that's very important. Sometimes that alone makes me feel so much better, just sharing how I'm feeling. And also, I think another good way to do it is to put it in writing or draw about it. And sometimes I know that it helps me to draw, because my drawings, no matter how scary, whatever it is I'm going through, turn out to be a little silly looking or a little too playful. And they, in the end, often make me laugh, and make me realize that perhaps what I'm going through is, as monumental as it might seem, not extremely hard, and I will figure out the best tools and ways through a lot of help to get through it. So I think the best way to deal with big changes is to express how fearful it can be, how difficult it can be to go through them, and to find people that might help us through them, and hold our hand and help us overcome those changes.
Oh, that's such great advice, because sometimes it might feel the most natural to try to keep it in. Because if you're already nervous or scared, sharing big feelings can be another nerve-wracking or scary thing on top of that. And so hearing from an expert on big changes to get those feelings out and share them with someone that you trust, that's really great advice. And I love that you mentioned cartoons, because I laughed so hard when I read the About the Author page in this book where it says you used to get in trouble for drawing cartoon versions of your teachers.
It's true. It is true.
Oh, that's wonderful. Being a cartoonist is so cool. And I know that I have worked with a lot of students that have had that goal, that want to draw and create cartoons and tell stories through pictures in their lives. How did you strengthen those skills? How did you go from cartoons of your teachers to the incredible illustrator that you are today?
Practice. I think for some reason we tend to tell children to focus more on reading and writing and to forget about drawing. And I think, at least personally, that that's a bit of a mistake. because drawing in many ways can be like another language for us to understand each other. And it might not be that we all are artists. Like I'm not a singer, but I still can sing. I'm not a dancer, a professional dancer, but I still can dance. I think we can retain those things from childhood and not graduate from being an artist at 7 or 8, but instead keep going. And sometimes I lack the confidence to do it, but overall, I kept on trying and trying and trying. And it doesn't mean that now, if I hold a pencil, I can draw exactly what I want. There are many, many times when things don't work exactly the way I intended to. And that can actually turn out to be really good in 2 ways. 1, it shows me that there are many different ways to do things. And 2, it's humbling. It shows me that I still am learning, even in my 40s. And I think it is important for children to know that things take a lot of practice, that we have to be patient, that we have to be patient, and that even as adults, we make mistakes and things don't always turn out exactly how we want them to.
I'm going to venture to say that especially as adults.
That might be wise to say, yeah.
And that connects to Africa's story, trying something new and deciding to go about it without being afraid, and Maya's story of being so brave. It takes us back to She Sang for the Mountains and her using her feelings to tell a story. I mean, all of these connections between our stories today. Oh, Juana Medina, thank you so much for the amazing answers to the questions, for sharing your story. I hope that our readers will learn more and read more about Juana and Lucas, because they are truly fabulous stories. So thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure being here. Thanks so much.
It is time for us to wrap things up. Thank you so much to our authors and to everyone who tuned in and joined us today. Please consider buying these featured books and other books by these incredible authors and illustrators from your local bookseller using the links provided on vabook.org or through the links in the chat. You can also explore the rest of the 2022 Virginia Festival of the Book schedule, which runs through March 20th at vabook.org. Thank you so much for being here.